Hey, welcome to Romance Happy Hours Book Club tonight. I'm Dylann Crush, and I am here with the awesome Frankie Love. Thank you so much for being with me tonight.
I'm so
Really,
happy to be here.
this is going to be fun. We are talking about your your box set. I hate to say it's a duel with Naughty and Confessions, and these were both Mountain Daddies, and they were in the Romance Happy Hour Red Hot Romance book box that just came out this past month. So, yeah, lots to talk about with these guys. So, Frankie, before we get started, and I see Karen's here. Hey, Karen, thanks for joining us tonight. Before we get started, do you want to just kind of tell people what you write and give us a little history, how long you've been writing, and all that good stuff?
Sure, yeah. I have been writing romance since 2016, and it's an amazing genre to write. It's so fun to connect with readers and writers about happily ever after. So that's usually my books always have like a happily ever after. They're not there's angst and there's drama, but the stakes are usually wrapped up in a pretty happy way. So I've been writing short romances mostly, and I've had a great time with this career choice. I couldn't be happier. So,
And how many books do you have out now? Because you are super prolific.
well, it has been a long time. So if you go back to 2016, it is, I mean, that is, 6 years. I don't know, almost seven. Is it 7 years? It's a long time. So,
Up on that, yeah.
but it's about 200 publications, but some of them are, box sets or things like that. So, yeah.
That is a lot of books.
Yeah, it's a lot of stories.
Mhm.
I recently had my website kind of renovated, and we were like, oh, we should somehow make this more organized where people can know where to begin, because it can be a little daunting when there's a big catalog to like know
Mhm.
where an entry point is. But Mountain Daddies is a good one.
Well, and it's nice because I love insta love and the short fiction. And are all of your books insta love, or would you say they're all short but they're not all insta love? Because I think, for some of our viewers, they maybe don't know exactly kind of what insta love entails. So
Some of my books are insta love. A lot of them are, and that's where the heroine, the hero, they meet really quickly in the first few chapters, and there's an instant spark where at least one of them knows this is it. This is my forever person, and there'll be conflict throughout the story as they can find their happily ever after. I do have some books, specifically ones I co-wrote with the author C.M. Seabrook. We wrote Princeton Charming series, and that's more new adult, and it's a little bit more drawn out love story. It takes them longer to figure out what they want. And we have co-written a series called The Wife Lottery, and that is a 6-book series, and it's a reverse harem. So she has a lot of people to fall in love with. So it takes a while. It's harder to have like insta love times 6. I haven't like figured that writing outline yet.
mhm. Yeah. No, there are a lot of moving parts in a reverse harem
Yeah.
novel, especially if you have more than two or three
Yes.
extra men. So no, that is a lot of books. And what I love about reading short, though, I mean, I'm a busy mom. I know a lot of our viewers and a lot of romance readers, it's just like they just want that quick hit. And
Yes.
so, I mean, I read both of these in, one day because I was in between running kids around and stuff like that. And so I love that you can get like a complete story in, just one sitting because, sometimes some of the books that we pick up are, 600-700 pages. And it's like, that's a commitment. That's going to take me, probably 10, 12 hours worth of reading time to get through it. And so it's
When
nice
I
to have the variety.
when I started writing romance, that was one thing that I was thinking. Like, I was a mom with little kids and like busy, and I was like, I kept looking at my Kindle like for just something short And I realized the reason I was liking that so much is because I feel like most days I end with like a to-do list that is not complete. And I'm like, this, if read a short book, I can say like, oh, I read a book. I did one whole complete thing today. And then I would feel kind of, proud of myself, if that sounds a little silly, but I was like, oh, I did accomplish something. And it's
Mhm.
something for me. So
I totally understand. Well, in that too. Yeah, when you are so busy and whether you're working full time or juggling kids or whatnot, yeah, finding that me time. It's nice to just kind of carve that out and know that you're going to get that happily ever after, and you're going to close the book and have that feeling that you can carry with you. So, no, I appreciate that. Karen is asking if we are taking questions tonight, and the answer is yes. But do not hit us up with a barrage of questions, Karen. If you tell Karen to ask questions, we'll get like
a lot
50 in a row.
of okay.
So, so brace yourself, Karen. We don't want to wear Frankie out. Just teasing.
Yeah.
So specifically about these two books, so they're super similar in that they're both mountain daddies, and as we were talking before we went live, the daddy kink is a little bit new to me. I know that there are a lot of readers who absolutely love it, and these are not the only two books that you've written in
Mhm.
that space. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, I have a few others. Um, I also it would these two stories were like I'm just like, "Oh, I have to write this." I don't know. Sometimes you're like, "What is coming over me?" But it was really fun. I was excited to write it, and these were my first age gap romances, like truly like the hero being twice the age of the heroine, and I just felt like it was I don't know, a little taboo, a little dangerous, and sometimes I was feeling like I'm in a little bit of a rut, and so I just tried something different. Um, yeah.
Well, and I've noticed because I mean I've been reading your books for quite a while. The Way to a Man's Heart. I started with those and just absolutely loved them, and just I mean the clever titles and the covers are so awesome on those. But um, these were what was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought. That's being a mom right there for you, like mom in action. I was gonna ask you about like the age gap thing. So you said that it was, felt a little naughty and a little taboo. And, as a mom who's reading this, who has kids that are, literally the ages of chastity and heaven in here, it does. It kind of feels like a little like, ooh, but it's also done so well. I mean, if you just said that these were the first two that you wrote, and I'm finding that hard to believe because I thought that they were really well done.
Thank
And it like skirts that area, but I mean, it just takes you back to when you were that age,
you. Mhm.
and, kind of thinking about just being a young,
Curious.
impressionable, curious, young woman, and the way that the men handle it, the heroes handle it, and the story is very well done. So,
Well, thanks. I've always written mountain men, so that was easy to, make the hero a mountain daddy. So that was like that's my wheelhouse. That's my favorite thing to write is mountain men. So and I also tend to write female main characters who do have a bit of innocence or at least a desire for like a family and settling down. And that tends to work pretty well with mountain men who are really protective heroes in the first place, who want
mhm.
to take care of the people around them. So it was a good combo.
Well, and what I was going to say before was that you don't seem like an author who is afraid to take risks, because you have had some other books out there like your first Mountain Men. I've seen the
Oh
covers for
yeah.
those. I haven't read one of those yet, but the Cavemen. So where did that idea come from?
Um, Well, it's kind of funny. It's actually a good story. I was thinking that I wanted to do something for my readers for Valentine's Day, and I wanted to do like something like a prank, or not Valentine's Day, April Fool's Day. I wanted to do like a funny prank, but it's like, how do you do that when you don't see these people in real life? And so I was like, oh, I'll do it through my newsletter. So I asked a friend of mine to make me a cover of a caveman romance, thinking, this is like a silly prank, like as most extreme as I could get. And I was like, link here, I sent a newsletter. I have a new book out, a caveman, the first mountain man, and here's the link. And then you follow the link and it's like a happy April Fool's, like, haha. I felt so bad afterwards because I had so many readers say, what the heck, Frankie, like, this is not okay. Like, we want that book. And I was like, really? Because I, you know, was not anticipating that. Like, but then I was like, well, how can I make cavemen, a little sexy? And so
Mhm.
they're actually, it's all time travel in that series. So they are contemporary heroes and female main
Gotcha.
characters. And they
Okay.
all, there's this, this cave in South America that people end up going through into, a prehistoric paradise. With those sexy military heroes ended up there. They were on a secret mission in this cave, and now they all ended up in, the Paleolithic age.
Well, and of course, they can take care of themselves because they're used to surviving in extreme circumstances and everything.
So they were perfect for that time. They could handle the saber tooth tigers. So
Right.
yes, it was a little like at first like this is a joke, and then I was like, oh, I can do this. Like this is a challenge, and so I had fun.
That's awesome. No, I love it that your readers called you out on that.
I know.
Um,
I was
so
like, oh man, I should do more pranks because that was a lot of reader engagement.
I guess the lesson there is be
Yeah,
careful what you mention because
yeah.
somebody
April Fool's is around the corner, so we can all like be thinking of a new joke.
Mhm.
We should
Yeah,
be like
that's true.
prepared for a 4 book series.
I was thinking maybe, my, parents had, like, all the Clan of the Cave Bear books when I
Yeah,
was growing up, and so I picked them up and I would read them, and I was like, "Maybe you were just a huge fan of Clan of the Cave Bear and all those, Jean M. Auel books from
yes,
way back
yes.
when." So, no, that's fantastic.
Those were a lot more
Um,
realistic.
yeah. Yeah, I do remember my oldest actually found those I mean, we don't have them at our house anymore, but she, found those and read a couple of those, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that takes me back."
Oh,
So
that's fun.
so for these 2 books, did you write them around the same time? I mean, did you write them back to back?
No, I think they're about 6 months apart.
Okay,
Yeah.
because they felt, I mean, similar in the style of, the hero and how
Mhm.
protective they were and everything, but also there's some drama in here,
Yeah.
and and, so it's interesting. I mean, you could just pretty much do it all because you go from, like the Way to My A Man's Heart books are, a little more lighthearted, a little more fun. Um, these both have a fairly serious slant to them with
Right.
the
It's a little
family
dark.
drama and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then Cruz is, a priest.
With a
So
past.
yes. Well, and we didn't get too much of his past.
Yeah.
So is that something that readers have asked about or wanted? Have you tried
No, I think,
to some
it's enough of a drop in of the fantasy where you
Mhm,
kind of know he's a rebel. He has this backstory that's pretty rough, but he's this redeemed hero, I think. So, although
mhm.
the priest part, I had never written a priest book, but I was just like, I want to do this. And so I was like, oh, I couldn't imagine writing just like a contemporary priest like in a city. Like it didn't fit.
Mhm.
But so I got him in the woods.
Well, and I grew up, Catholic, and so, yeah, so, it's and priests as characters now have come up a couple times in romance books, and, I mean, talk about taboo.
Yes, that's true. I have a lot of romances that have religious aspects, like, my Mountain Man Baby series. It's a 10-book series set in, like, Idaho, and a lot of the women in that series, have just escaped a cult. So there is just I have in a lot of my books, and there is another series, The Men of Whiskey Mountain, and there's a cult that's involved. You just throw in the things that intrigue you and interest
Mhm.
you. That's what you get to research about and put into your stories and make it your own. So, yeah.
Well, and I felt like, and if anybody who's watching has specific questions about the books, let's cover those first, and then we can move into to other topics. But I just felt like, both of them, the women, the female heroines were, young, but also very strong
Mhm.
to, go through what they both experienced in the books. So, you got the feeling that they were, I mean, they're definitely young and somewhat innocent, but also more emotionally mature, maybe.
Mhm. I
And
think that's important with an age gap romance because
Mhm.
the female main character has to know what she wants.
Yes.
She has to know exactly who she is and what she wants out of life. For me, to make it feel like this is a safe story for anybody.
Right. Well,
Mhm.
because otherwise I think, you run the risk of, and not that we would ever put this in a romance, but the hero maybe taking advantage or coercing, or I mean, just, if she doesn't have that strong sense of self
Right.
and know exactly what she wants and make that very clear, then yeah, I think then it's maybe not quite as romantic.
Right. Right. Just a little bit.
Right, right. So, no, I thought that that was very I mean, I fell in love with both of these couples. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I did like Chastity's character because she was, like, helping people in town. She
Yes.
knew what she wanted to go do that, like a life of service. You have to make the 2 characters compatible. So,
Mhm.
like, their strengths and their weaknesses, so
Yep. Well, and it's also I love how in, these short books, how you can pack so much story in because, you immediately had a sense of who both of them were in both stories, Hawken and Heaven, and then also for Cruz and Chastity, just because you have such little space. I think a lot of people think like, oh, writing a short story is how hard can that be? But when you're trying to fit in, maybe if it's a slice of life, story or something like that. But when you're trying to fit a complete romance with a happily ever after in, and I don't know, I mean, these were
15,000 words each.
okay. I was going to say, I don't know how many words they were. I know how many pages, but I mean, that's not a whole lot of space. So
Right.
you have to choose your scenes carefully. I mean, everything really has to carry the story along. And I've written some shorts and most of my full length books are much longer where you have, so much more space to really bring in all of that. And, I think it's much harder to write a really,
Right.
well curated, crafted short story, and get all that in than, to kind of wax on and on and on. Um, well, and also, I mean, subplots. So, if you're writing a longer story, you do have room for more subplots and things like that. Whereas just shorts are really focused heavily on the couples. But that's what you read the romance for, is you you want the love story.
Yes.
Um, so
Sometimes go ahead, sorry.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, there is times when, if I'm browsing for a book and not sure what to read on my Kindle, and then you start a story, if it doesn't I'm so used to things happening so fast.
Mhm.
So I tend to think, "Oh, no, I need to, like, go read some more novels because I'm forgetting, like, that a 300-page or 400-page book, it's okay, like, things can go slow." But I'm like, "Come on." I, like, type in a keyword on my Kindle, like, maybe a spicy keyword that I'm trying to, like, "Okay, let's get to some action."
Mhm.
But
Yeah, it is funny. I mean, so many things change when you start to write. When you go from being a reader who loves to read romance to being a writer, it's so interesting what you pay attention to. And yeah, I would imagine when you go from writing and reading mainly shorts,
mhm,
and it just, yeah, feels like even if it's not a slow burn, everything probably
right.
feels like an extremely slow burn. So, all right. Um, so in these two books, again, I think that you know, handled the subject matter, the relationships. I mean, you even did have, a little bit of subplot in there with, the families and things like that. What is your ideal makeup for a book when it comes to, when you're thinking about putting the pieces together? I mean, do you start with a hero? Do you start with a heroine? Do you, sometimes like when I start a book or am thinking about, what I want to write next, it might be like a snippet of dialogue, or you get like a flash of a scene or something like that. So what goes into it? And I don't know if you remember, because these were a little while ago, but do you remember like what your first inspiration was for starting these?
Well, I had been reading age gap romances.
Okay.
And I was like, "Oh, this is really fun. I need to do this. I wanna write one. This is I'm really into reading this, so I'm
Mhm.
gonna go try to do it myself." I think that happens for me a lot. Whatever I'm kind of leaning towards, I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm inspired. This is what I'm excited about." I think that's a lot easier to write anything with a little bit of, hopefully, authenticity or in care or heart to it if you're actually, like,
Mhm.
into it.
Mhm.
My new series I have, that is just came out. It's Rough and Tumble, and that was based around a home, like the town called Home. And it was so that world was really about the family and the town that they grew up in. But a lot of times I write based on like a trope that kind of is in my like that I'm into personally.
Mhm.
So,
I love those covers, by the way.
oh, thanks. Yeah, me
Just
too.
oh my gosh, they just make me think of, sitting out by the bonfire at the cabin and the twinkle lights overhead. I mean, I don't know, they convey a certain feeling. I love those covers.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
and you've got several of those up for proof too. The
Yeah,
rest
I have, the second one comes out next week,
okay.
Rough Deal, and, that is actually a lot more like Naughty Confessions. It's not age gap, but the Heart from the Hard Places heroine, and I didn't really recognize that so much as I was writing her, but she had kind of in the story, she's really like had a traumatic time, and the reviewers were like, "Oh, this is a lot darker than I was expecting." And I was like, it's so interesting. I'm like, what was going on with me when I was like, this should definitely be her backstory?
Mhm.
Who knows? You just kind of write what you like.
And isn't that funny too? Because can you look back? I mean, you've written so many books now. I mean, do you ever look back and think about, oh yeah, like if, you're thinking about that's when I was doing this, or, I mean, I can see things that, like in some of my books, something happens and I'm like, oh, that was when, my kid did this and I was mad, and, and you take it out on your characters.
Right. That's funny. I've
You
never really thought of it like that, but I do think the Way to the Man's Heart books, I was just like, super in a silly place because I was like, I can't get enough of a pun. Like everything needs to be a pun. And I'm like, well, that was cute. That was interesting. Did everything need to be a pun?
those books are fantastic. I
They're
love
super
them.
fun. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, wow, I just was like, I'm gonna keep going with the puns.
Uh-huh. Well, and there are how many of them now?
There's 10.
Okay.
Actually 12, I think.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say, I
there's
think
12.
there were more than 10.
There's 12.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just when you think it's over, like, I saw another one, and I'm like, "Ooh."
Well, it happened because I even made a box set of the 10 books, and then a reader was like, "Oh, I thought of more titles for you, some more puns." And I was like, "Well, I can't let her down."
Right. So it seems like you're super responsive to your readers,
I
and you
maybe
have a
I never think of it like that, but I
Mhm.
do have a mailing list, and that's how I mostly connect with my readers, through email.
Okay.
So, I'm on Instagram and Facebook and things, but it doesn't seem like the same connection when I'm
Mhm,
emailing people. I don't know.
mhm. Well, and we do have some questions. I wanna make sure that
Yes.
we get to those, so maybe we'll go ahead and ask a few of those. Let's see. Let me scroll back up here. Oh, Heather wants to know, do you have a list of all of your books?
Yes, on frankielove.net, if you, tap the books button, it will, have all the books there, and they're by series and also by trope, so it's easy to see. If you like the age gap here, you can go to that tab on my website, and it will show you all the age gap romances I've done, or, you know, uh, athletes and billionaires, things like that, so to
Okay.
help navigate a little bit, so, yeah.
And then let's see, and I can't see everyone's names here because I think with StreamYard you have to allow them to use your name and stuff. So it just says Facebook user. But someone asks, what inspired you to write?
I was inspired to write when I was just personally having a hard time in life, and I was just writing like in a journal. I was writing like terrible poetry, just anything to kind of process my own emotions. And then I realized, oh, this is something I love doing. And it just it came from a place of like, oh, I was able to like, not to sound overly sentimental, but like healing and like really like, help me with my own personal life. I was like, I'm going to keep doing this. And, you know, I love the idea of the stories if they're helping other people when they're having a hard time. So, and that's why I love writing romance so much and, reader feedback of like, "Oh, people are having a hard time in life, like, their days things suck." So it is, like, really an honor and a privilege to get to write stories that make people smile or, like, just have a good feeling or feel anything besides, kind of those more drudgery feelings. I don't know if that's a word,
Mhm.
but
We know what you mean.
yeah.
No, I think that's perfect because especially, the past couple of years, um, and I remember I remember Damon Suede saying it. I don't remember who else might
Mhm.
have said it, but they, have always I've heard romance is the genre of hope, and I love that because I think it's true. I feel like reading, for me, and I'm assuming that you've been pretty much a lifelong reader too. But, I mean, books were always there, no matter what's going on in life and family and everything else, it's like you can always lose yourself in a book. And
Yes.
so yeah, I love that too about
Mhm.
being able to, give other people an escape.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's see. Someone else is asking, how do you come up with the characters' names?
Yeah, okay, so with these books, I really I really love writing books with them having the same letter of their first name, my hero and heroine, and I don't care if anyone thinks it's cheesy and like, "Stop now, Frankie." It's really hard to not want to not do that every time for some reason. I love doing that. And then I often try to just come up with something that matches the characters. In this book, Heaven was a good fit,
Mhm.
and Chastity too for the confession story. So I'm trying to do that. In the new series, this Rough and Tumble one, um, the family names are, I think, really fun because the mom in this series, she's had 7 children and she's named them each what her pregnancy craving was. That was her family tradition. So, the first one was Bartlett because the mom was craving pears. The second hero is Rye. So they're all named, one of the girls is Lemon and one is Fig, and they're all named after a food. Reuben. So it was really fun. Yeah. So
I craved Taco Bell with my
yes.
oldest, so I don't know.
Find like a cute, they joke about that. They're like, good thing you weren't craving Pop Tarts or
Right,
something.
right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to come up with something for that.
Right. Skittles. I don't know. I
Mhm.
just
No, that's hilarious.
yeah.
And so how do you keep track? Because now that you have so many books, I mean, do you find yourself reusing names, or is there this
I'm
never-ending supply? Do you have a spreadsheet?
I don't have a spreadsheet. I always want to use the name Harper. That's the first heroine I wrote, and I'm like, I can't do it. But I'm like, well, now it's been 7 years. I can do another Harper, don't you think?
Sure.
I don't know.
So maybe you don't know if you've reused them,
I
or do
don't think
you
I have. I think I would notice that.
I was trying to come up with a name the other day, and I had, one of my friends was helping me, and it seemed like everything she suggested, I'm like, "Nope, I've used that.
And
Nope, I've used that."
yeah, totally.
I do have baby name books.
Oh,
I
true. I go to Pinterest and type in like cute baby names 2022.
Mhm.
Lumberjack names. Lumberjack baby names.
Have you ever let your, readers name characters?
Um, one time I had a reader, I named a heroine after a reader, and that
Okay.
was Andy. It's Hazel, after
Mhm.
a reader named Hazel, and that was fun. But I haven't done that, but that's a good idea. Do you do that sometimes?
No, I haven't either, but yeah, I just wondered because it seems like take a lot of feedback from your readers into account and stuff. I just wondered if you'd ever I did a contest once where, in my reader group where I asked for suggestions on this bluegrass band, and,
Uh-huh.
and I took one of the suggestions that was
That's
given, and then so that I noted her name and the acknowledgments and
yeah,
everything, and so that was kind of fun
yeah,
because I think too, sometimes our readers know more
yeah,
about, I mean, they just know our books so well and our voice so well that, they maybe can come up with ideas that totally fit. So I love that. No, I still can't see your name. I don't know who that is. I still can't see your name. I'm sorry. Um, oh, Karen wants to know. So you have audiobooks,
Yes.
and she wants to know what is the process for choosing your narrators?
So usually I work with a production company and they purchase the rights of the book and then they produce the audio. So I don't have a ton of say. Sometimes I will get like an email with 3 samples to choose from. So it's not I'm not like an author who has like I'm not like hiring people personally
Mhm.
for the narration.
Yep.
Yeah.
Karen has a book called the Booktastic Book Club, and
Oh,
um, and has some narrators and things and people in there. And so and Karen Wright. Okay, we know that Facebook user is Karen Wright. So we got
Karen.
that right there. I know StreamYard doesn't play nice with Facebook sometimes. Let me see. Did I miss one? I think I might have missed one. Oh, Karen Hoffman would like to know, do you use an author pseudonym? And you do not have to answer that if you don't want to.
No, I do. I don't my name is not Frankie Love. I write as Frankie Love. I also write suspense as Anya Mora. So, yeah. It's a little bit, it wouldn't be good crossover for romance readers because it's like domestic suspense or like a family drama.
Okay. And
Mhm.
are those shorts too, or are those
No, those are not full length.
okay?
Yeah.
So you do have to flip flop back and forth, and I
Yes.
didn't know that you had another pen name.
Those are very hard to write
Okay.
because I'm like, "Oh, wait, no, I have to the story has to keep going. How am I doing this?" Like, it's a lot more plotting, a lot more
Well,
outline.
right. I would think that plotting a suspense. I mean, you have to. It's
Yeah.
almost like you have to then make sure that you've gone back and dropped the clues and everything so that the readers can figure it out. And
I've been in a writing group with the same 3 people for 10 years,
oh my
and
god.
we're in the same town, and
Mhm.
so we have all written or read every single thing either any of us have ever written because we give weekly feedback,
Oh,
on
that's so nice.
our chapters. So one of the authors is a cozy mystery author, so she really taught me how to write a mystery.
That's fabulous.
And I was like, after I read so many of her cozies, I'm like, "Oh, I wanna write something with a mystery
Mhm.
in it." So
Well, and if you like puns, cozies are
yeah, mine aren't cozies, but yes, cozies have the best puns.
uh-huh, they really do.
Yeah, and those readers don't seem to mind, so I
No,
don't even
they love them. The punnier, the better.
yeah.
So, Heather would like to know, how many books do you write in a year?
Um, maybe like 25 short stories, something like about that. Yeah.
And, okay, now the questions are flying in. Karen is asking, do you have a favorite time of the day to write?
Yes, I absolutely do, Karen. I love to write, like, it has to be after all the morning chores are done, kids are taken care of. It's like 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock is my sweet spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I do so much better in the morning. And
Do
it
you?
used to be when I first started writing, I only had time to write at night
Mhm.
after the kids got in bed, and then I'd pour a glass of wine and sit down and write, and that was like my me time. And now, yeah, now I can't write at night. I'm just way too tired in the
I
morning.
really want to be a morning writer.
Mhm.
I would love that. I feel like I spend my whole morning distracted, and so I have to, like, clear out my entire, like, "What's going on in the world? Who's doing this on social media?" Now, okay, I've looked at everything, and now I can write. I
Yep.
don't know what that says about me, but
Well, I think it just I mean, from what, I've heard from other authors and author coaches and things like that, I think if you find something that works for you, then
to
make
do
it
it.
work for you.
Yeah, I do try with the kids and, like, appointments and things, it's like, "Okay, we can schedule all of those before noon."
Mhm.
I do make an effort, it's like, orthodontist? Nope, it has to be in the morning. So then it's like, "Okay, my afternoon's cleared."
Right.
So, yeah.
Let's see. Karen wants to know, what are your hobbies?
My hobbies, I like to go kayaking, and I do yoga terribly, but there is a studio in town that's hot yoga, and so what I realized I've never been like an exercise person. Like in my life, it's never been like a part of my routine. But I realized, oh, yoga's awesome because for an hour, someone is telling me exactly what to do. And I don't have to think. It's like, move your body this way, move your arm this way. And I'm like, oh, my brain is off. And I'm just listening to stuff like maybe I'm just very good at direction. I would be a sub, I guess, not a dom. I don't know. I'm like, tell me what to do, I'll do it.
I used to do hot yoga and loved it. And I don't because you get to nap at the end, you know? Do they do the meditation at the end?
And we get this cool washcloth at the end, and
Yes.
I just put over my I'm like, "Oh, this is magic."
It's
And
almost they reward you
yeah,
for moving. And
it's
yeah,
good.
I used to love that, except I always just wanted to fall asleep. You know, I didn't wanna have to go home. It just leave me here for a while. It smells good. They have, like, all the incense or whatever going, and it's
To
such
me,
a yeah. No, I used to love hot yoga. It's not the
oh,
same when
no.
you do it at
Karen
home.
says she wore jeans to yoga. Oh, no.
Yeah, no.
Gotta go again, but try a different, maybe, outfit. That's
I guess
funny.
it depends on how much you think you're gonna bend, 'cause
It's true.
I'm not nearly as flexible as I used to be, so I probably could do yoga in jeans now 'cause I don't think I'd stretch that much, but it's funny, Karen.
Yeah.
Um, if you have any more questions, I know, we're probably gonna wrap up here in just a few
Yeah.
minutes. If you have any final questions, let us know. Um, I was gonna ask just, as we kinda get towards the end here, what are just so we can get to know you a little bit better beyond the books, what
Yeah.
are 3 things that you can't live without?
I would say my husband. He helps me out a lot with plots. Then I would say my dog. I'm a dog mom late in life, and I love Sammy to death. And the water, I live by on the Puget Sound. Like the water is all around me. Anywhere I drive, I see water, and I would feel like it's very hard to live in a place without water when I get in my car and drive the kids to school or something. So
Mm, that's a really cool answer.
yeah,
Yeah, we don't live around water, I'm landlocked,
yeah,
but well, Minnesota is, like the land of 10,000 lakes, so they say, but yeah, I think it's totally different when you are used to seeing that, 'cause yeah, I've been out to that area and have friends out in that area,
mhm,
and that would be very strange if it'd be like taking someone who lives in the mountains away from the mountains and,
right,
telling them that, yeah, you're living in Arizona now and you don't well, I guess you can still see mountains, but yeah, that's really I love that answer. That's great.
yeah.
Let's see. Oh, I thought I saw a couple other questions come in. Um, and then what are 3 things that you would like readers to know about you or
Mm,
about your books? Like, what can they expect when they pick up a Frankie Love book?
a reader could expect to feel maybe uh, they're high heat. So
Mhm,
you know what that there's 5 spice, I think. I don't know, everyone has a different spice level chart, but
mhm,
I think they're pretty high heat,
mhm.
and that they're going to be, find happy resolution at the end of the books, and that, I as an author, I love writing for my readers, so I would want them anyone I would want my readers to know that about me too, like, I'm doing this because it brings me so much joy to know a story is making someone's day a little bit better,
Mhm.
so
Well, I think that comes through for sure. I mean, I've read several of your books now, and they've all been fantastic. So
yeah,
you can tell when someone likes what they're doing and when
yeah,
somebody's just, kinda
going through the motions,
yes,
yeah.
just yeah. So, no, definitely comes through. So if you weren't a writer, what would you be? Did you ever have any dreams when you were younger of,
Um,
little of being something else, or did you always wanna be a
I
writer?
think if I wasn't a writer, I would want to own a little diner. Because I love making breakfast. I
Okay.
even like tomorrow morning, the kids don't have school, so I'm like, "Oh, mom's making breakfast. Everyone has to be there at 9." I love a breakfast, a good breakfast, so I would love to have a little diner that just serves breakfast, 7 to 2. I have
Mhm.
it all planned out, so maybe
Yeah.
it's my late in life dream come true, I don't know, we'll see.
What's your favorite thing to make for breakfast? Like, what are you making tomorrow?
I'm making scrambled eggs, sausage, cinnamon rolls.
Oh, yum.
Yeah, so it'll be good. My daughter, though, she's 21 and she just finished baking school or pastry school. And so now she trumps anything I make like sweets. So
Mhm.
it's very fun. Now I'm like, oh, Bella, you have to come over and bring the good treats and desserts, and it's good.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, I know it
Mhm.
is.
My oldest likes to bake, but, is still at home, and so, yeah, when if I come downstairs, I'm like, "Mm, it smells like someone's making
Yeah.
cookies."
I know. She when, the pandemic started and we were kind of stay-at-home orders, she was at living at home, and I was like, "Bella, this is we cannot you cannot be making cookies every day or like a 3-layered cake." I'm like, "This is too much." Like, and now she lives in an apartment, and she's like, "Well, I have to bring it over to you guys because I can't eat all of this." I'm
Right.
like, "Yes, I can eat your treats."
Well, and maybe the other kids can help.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it doesn't
It's
have
not
to
all on me.
right. It's yes, that's a lot of pressure to put on.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, it has been great talking to you. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. Really appreciate it. And like I said, I loved these two stories.
Thank you
If you haven't picked up these books, I saw you've got this. I mean, you did this special for
for the
everything's
boss.
opposite, so I'm trying to
I
get it
know.
where you can see it. You did this the box set special for the book box, but I saw that you do have it coming out
Yep,
in
it's on
March.
pre-order for March 15th, so
Yep.
you can get the paperback now, though, so
Oh, it's available. Okay, awesome. So the paperback is available. If you didn't have a chance to read those, I highly, highly recommend. Just make sure you have some ice water with you when you are reading this. I actually read them and I started reading them in the waiting room of kids' doctor's appointment,
Mhm.
and I do not recommend.
Yeah.
So, because yeah, it's a little
Little
steamy,
steamy.
but very much enjoyed. So,
Thank you.
and we do have a couple of the Red Hot Romance book boxes left, and there is a discount code in the group if you're interested in getting a signed copy of these, like I've got, and that was in with Hope Ford had two books in there too. So that month was all about shorts and short and steamy, which was perfect to get us through these winter months, especially
Right.
in Minnesota.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, thanks for being with us. If you want to find Frankie, check her out her website and get on that newsletter list because it sounds like that's the best place. And is your newsletter sign up on your website then?
It sure is, yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thanks for being with us. We'll see you in the group. And for everyone who's watching tonight, Dawn and I will be back next week with another regular episode of Romance Happy Hour. So we hope you'll join us again on the Facebook page, 8 o'clock next Thursday. So, all right. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you.